Ooh, well, hello everybody. It is Danny and Wanda this time in the condo. Ms. Wanda's well enough to be down here with me today.
Yeah, this is like actually my second time to be here. Danny put this condo up, and it's a hunting blind actually. And I was down here the day he did it, and then I've been sick for a couple of months now and hadn't been able
You've
to
been
come.
sick for about
Right at
four,
three,
since
four.
November.
Probably before then even, but
Yeah.
did not realize it. And
Yeah.
so instead of a live, we're doing a premiere.
Let me explain. Don't get upset with us because we're doing a premiere. We got some bad weather coming through.
Saturday night.
Saturday night, lots and lots and lots of rain and heavy. I'm talking about heavy weather, and it wouldn't do us any good to live stream then anyway. Because if we did, it would just be a mess.
Yeah,
you know?
and we have some issues still with our live stream anyway, so
Yeah.
we're working the kinks out still. But I've been sick, so I've not been able to fix everything like I should, and Danny's handled everything as best he can. But we wanted to talk about quite a few things.
Quite a few things. I mean, we first of all, one thing is people go, why don't y'all put some seeds down there at that food plot where your condo is, where the deer will stay away from up at the house? Well, I'm going to show you a picture right now of that food plot.
And the deal is with the food plot, he put peas.
I put peas,
winter
rye, wheat, oats.
And they all got up.
Oh yeah, they all got up
about
nice,
this
about
tall.
2 to 3 inches high. And then it happened. Okay, it happened. We had video cameras set up on this thing, and they came. And when they came, they consumed. Now we're talking about not just deer. We're talking about we had droves or flocks, what's that they call it, flocks of turkeys. Not just one group, but multiple groups of turkeys came through. They didn't eat the grass. They went for all the little peas and the clovers and all that kind of stuff. Then the deer came, not just one or two, but herds of them come in.
8 at a time sometimes.
Yeah, and they just mowed them down. I was like, man, they're going to eat the grass before it gets up. And
the grass is pretty.
They wasn't even eating the grass. They was eating other stuff, So now here we are.
We're going to fertilize it and see what happens. But this is a nice place for the deer to come.
Oh, yeah.
And it's private. It's off in the back of the property. And behind us is private property. And there's no houses back there. So the deer are living either on the property behind us, and some of them maybe in these woods.
But now, what makes this place really a unique place is that there's a branch on my left right here, right beside the shoot house is a branch. And right on the other side of the food plot right there is another branch, and they go parallel, and then all of a sudden they come together way down in yonder. So this area is really kind of cut off from anything, because these branches or swamps, should I say, keep it cut off back in here. And they feel comfortable when they come back here. So, and we want it to stay that way because back here we haven't shot anything back here. It wasn't our plan to shoot anything back here. Our plan was to let them feel like this was a safe zone so that they would come out and have plenty of grass to eat, specifically when they had their babies. And the bucks now we're starting to see scrapes everywhere because our rut really doesn't begin until about mid-January and it goes through mid-February. And I know that sounds crazy to people up north.
This is the 1st of February, so
and we on our way in here, we saw a scrape on the ground where a buck had been scraping underneath a tree, and I told Wanda, I said, there they are. I said, they're coming in just like we anticipated, So that's a good deal, and we've got most everything around here like we want it right now. And I'm going to have to do a little trimming on some of the pecan trees out here, the limbs. I want to raise them up just a little bit on some of them so the tractor cab don't hit them. And, we got, like Wanda said, we got to do a little fertilizing. So that's where we're at.
This will be good for all summer.
Oh, yeah, for all summer, this will be fine. Now, the winter rye will die back, and when it does, I will come in and plant more summer clovers, peas, just maybe soybeans, different things like that that the deer would probably consume right off the bat. But
when they get this tall.
When they get about that tall. But I'll just keep doing it all summer long, I guess. But we also wanted to do, not only that, we wanted to do a little bit of update on Wanda's health. Let y'all know, what transpired, what happened, where we're at today.
And we wanted to talk about our most controversial,
Comment.
I guess to us it would be a little bit controversial. I don't know if it'd be
It's
controversial.
not controversial. I mean, it's our
most negative, maybe?
Well, most misunderstood comment that we ever get on YouTube.
Yeah, maybe that's a better way to say it.
Yes, and it's misunderstood because the people who make it, they don't know. I had to reiterate that. They don't really know
what they're saying.
Yeah, because they really haven't. I don't think they've really given it any thought.
Because we get a lot of comments where people say things and they really don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And they make these statements, and everybody does. Everybody makes these statements, but we want to talk about that.
We'll talk about that in a little while. It doesn't bother us now. Don't think that we're bothered by it.
No, we just thought we would bring it.
We would address it. Yeah.
We've been wanting to talk about it for a while.
Yeah, but now with Miss Wanda, like we said back in November, she began to feel like she didn't feel good. She just didn't have the energy that she needed, and her stamina was dwindling. And Wanda and I, we don't go to doctors usually,
Yeah, let me just say that I took herbal classes in the 80s, and I've been in the hospital when I was born. I've been in the hospital with my first child, my second child. I had 3 children at home, and pretty much since then, the only time I've been in the hospital since then was when I went to have my heart checked out about 6-7 years ago. Yeah. And then this week.
Now that's not many times to be 60-something years old, to have been in a hospital. And she'd never been put to sleep. Never.
No, and I've never had any surgeries.
Never had no surgeries, never been put to sleep, nothing like that. So all these things that Miss Wanda's, has went through this week has all been a new experience for her after 60-something years of life. She's one of the few that has, that has actually.
I have all my parts, and they all still work.
They still work.
Broken.
But as she began to weaken down, then we got closer to Christmas, and we was like, man.
Well, actually, right before Christmas, I called to go to the doctor.
Yes, she did. That's correct.
Our personal doctor, their receptionist said I would be a new patient and they would have to get back with me. Well, our phone doesn't work very well and they only call.
Right.
And so I didn't receive a call before Christmas. And I told Danny, I said, well, I'm going to just wait and put it off till after Christmas and I'll call back. And if I still feel this way, and then I guess it was a blessing because before Christmas we were self-pay.
Yeah, we were self-pay.
We would have paid everything out of pocket, self-pay. But I had gotten us an insurance policy that kicked in January 1st. Mm-hmm. So during Christmas, Danny got sick, then I got sick. We took the crud. Whatever it was.
I mean, I think Wanda got the big C. I think I just had an upper sinus issue or whatever it was, because I got over mine in about 4 or 5 days.
But already being weak and then taking that, I couldn't get over it. And everybody, I was still weak, and people kept saying 3 to 4 weeks, you're still weak. Yeah. So I kept waiting and putting it off, calling a doctor, because I thought 3 to 4 weeks I'll start feeling better. And at 4 weeks, I still wasn't any better. I was getting worse. My health had gotten to the point that I had to have a stool to sit on to do anything. I couldn't walk across the floor without just feeling tired. My breathing was fine.
Yeah, her oxygen level was fine. Her heart rate was fine. Everything. She just had no energy. She would go 10 feet and have to sit down, and she's like, I can't go no further. And I said, okay, it's time. It's time for us to do something.
So I called the doctor's office back, and this time, since we've gotten Starlink, our phone works a little bit better, and so the nurse called me back and says, yes, come on in. She set me up an appointment. And when we went in, Danny is friends with
I'm very close friends with the doctor. Yeah.
And I've seen him a few times, but it's been several years because I just don't go to the doctor. and he knew immediately that I was
Anemic.
low blood, anemic.
Yeah.
But he needed to know more before he just started doing things.
Yes.
And so this past week I took blood, 2 units of blood, and that perked me up some, but he wanted to know why.
Yeah, he said we done some tests and she was bleeding internally, and he said I need to do an upper and lower GI to see why, you know, because her blood hemoglobin was 5. And after having a wife passed away with cancer, I've done thousands of hours of research into cancer. And when I saw the 5 hemoglobin, I didn't say anything, but my heart just dropped, you know. And I think my doctor knew I knew also, but we neither one of us said anything. So we just kept praying. And then my doctor is a praying doctor.
Yes, and that's what I loved about him. He's very, encouraging.
He's very positive, encouraging.
And when he started walking out the door the first day, before I had the blood, he looks and he says, an apple a day, just remember that. And he said, and I'm serious.
He said, I'm serious, yeah.
And so, but he's very caring. And after I had the blood, they called and said I had to go for the colonoscopy. And
the upper and lower GI.
Lower.
Yeah.
And so we had to run back to town, get all this paperwork and all the stuff to drink and all that kind of stuff. And y'all, I don't like Gatorade right now.
She hates Gatorade with a passion right now.
I had to drink 2 of those little, I think it was Miralax with
64 ounces of Gatorade.
And 4 hours.
Yes, in 4 hours. Needless to say, Ms. Wanda is not a Gatorade fan anymore.
I wasn't anyway. I didn't like Gatorade. But the first bottle or 2 went down pretty good, and I thought I got this, but the 3rd bottle was starting to make me and the 4th was all I could do to force me. I think I left about this much in a cup. I just could not handle it anymore. And so I had this giant clean out, and from there we got up the next morning. My daughter came and went with us, and we went to the hospital, and I had the upper and lower, and because I was out of it most of the time, but he can tell you a little bit more about what happened and what the doctor said afterward.
Yeah, the beauty of everything that happened that day was because I'm such close friends with the doctor, he let me look at everything what he was doing in her. And I have all the pictures of everything inside her. And my Torah says, I know more about you on the inside than you do, you know?
Well, one thing, the doctor came in, he was running late, and I was already prepped and ready. He came in and he put his hand on my shoulder and said so, and he's from India. So I have trouble listening and hearing everything he says. Danny catches it before I do, but Danny wasn't in there. And he said something, I looked down and I said, sir? And he says, let's pray. And I said, okay, I agree. And so he prayed really briefly, and this was in between patients, because he had 2 more, and before he got to me, and he apologized for the long day. He doesn't usually have that long of a day.
Usually he told me, me and him spoke frequently between his surgeries and everything he was doing, because I was sitting next to the surgical consultation room, and every time he would come out to talk to another person, he would sit and talk to me for just a minute while he's waiting on them. And he told me, he said, Brother Danny, he calls me brother. You know, he said, Brother Danny, he said,
we went to church together.
We went to church together many years. He said, today's been a bad day. You know, and I told him, I said, really, brother? And he said, yeah. He said, usually 2 hours, I can do all these patients in about 2 hours. He said, today, it's going to take me over half a day. He said, I've been through 2 that was eat up with cancer, having to take it out. He says, and it's not been good. You know, it's taken longer than it usually should. He said, so I moved Ms. Wanda to the very end. He said, I know you hate to hear that. He said, if I moved her to the end so I can spend some time with her. He said, and we'll talk about that later, you know. And I told him, I said, okay. I said, and I like that, because I told him, I said, it's okay. I said, I'm fine sitting out here in the waiting room. That's fine. So he left and went and did a couple of other people, and he came back out and he said, well, I just finished a real bad one. He said, Ms. Wanda's next. And I told him, I said, okay. I said, take your time, brother. I said, I ain't in no hurry, you know. Yeah, he came out and prayed with me before before we went in with Miss Wanda. And I told him, I said, thank you for that, brother. And he and I both had a suspicion, you know, and he wouldn't say anything to me and I wouldn't say anything to him, but I think we both knew. And he went in, done the upper and lower GI on her. He allowed me to look at the pictures and everything as this thing transpired. And you know, the upper GI, I mean, she looks like a teenager. Her throat, her stomach, I looked inside her stomach, everything looks like a teenager, you know.
They said it looked very healthy.
I said,
mean,
wow.
I looked at them.
I showed Wanda the pictures later because I told him, I said, I want the pictures so I can show them to her. And he said, yeah, he said, man, she looks really good. He did the lower GI and he went all the way through the large intestines and everything. And he said, brother, he said, something ain't right. But on the way out, he found it. You know, there was a very large blood swollen polyp. And we're talking about probably half the size of a chicken's egg. And it was attached to the colon. And he was trying to get a band around it.
It was under a flap.
It was under
or something?
It was where the colon has
the
colon has a fold in it next to the sigmoid part of the colon, and it has a fold in it right there, and it was on the back side of that fold, and he didn't see it till he was coming out, and it was bright red, sitting there bleeding, just oozing, you know, and he said, we found it, and he said, now I got to see if I can do this. He had to take part of her colon out. He was able to get a band around it, and he was able to get it down all the way to the intestines and cauterize it, and he put the dye in there and everything, and he said, I don't see any cancer. And he looked at me and he said, brother, a miracle happened today. And I told him, I said, man, I know it. And he asked me, he said, we are friends with a guy who is over a radio station in Little Rock, Arkansas. Both of us are very close friends with this guy that's over this radio station, or part of this radio station, Christian Broadcasting radio station. And he asked me, he said, can I share this with him? Because this was a miracle. He said, anybody with a 5 hemoglobin is usually a cancer patient. I said, brother, I know that. You know, and I said, that's what was bothering me. And he said, me too. He said, I really figured when I went into Ms. Wanda that I was going to find her eat over cancer. You know, and I told him, I said, well, that's what I was expecting. I said, but God is good. And he said, yes, he is. And then he prayed with me again. And you know, he thanking the Lord for the blessing of everything going as well as it going, and God was able to guide his hands and able to allow him to remove that from her without any complications whatsoever. I asked him, I said, what kind of diet does she need to be on? He said, brother, right now she needs anything she wants.
He said, you need anything. I
anything.
asked too when he came through, and he said, you can do what you want to do.
He said, I was able to. He said, God allowed me to fix her up. He said, there ain't a thing in the world wrong with her. He said, her colon is perfectly clean. He said, you seen it? He said, it looks good. He said, it looks healthy. That one spot was all. And he said, she's good to go. He said, but you know, I want to see her back in 2 years, you know, for another one. He said, just because. He said, and I'm going to send this one off. He said, I don't think it's cancer. He said, I'm almost 100%. He said, but I'd always like to check myself. Double check. He said, so we're going to send it off and have a biopsy done. You know, and I told him, I said, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. Because I believe the Lord was in the middle of all this, you know.
And during the whole time of this, even though I knew my blood was low, in my heart, I kept saying, it's my stomach. There's something going on with my stomach or my colon. I mean, and I never let the C word, cancer, come even into my thoughts. I wouldn't even think about that. I didn't go that route. Everybody else did, but I didn't. I'm like, no, it's going to be something in my stomach, something in my colon. And I believed that the whole time. And when Danny told me that he said, you know, it's a miracle because most people, I'm like, wow. I was really just expecting something like what he found.
Yeah.
I really wasn't expecting anything any different. And if they'd have told me any different, I would probably have been devastated. But, you know, I really thought it was stomach or colon related.
So that's where we're at. And Miss Wanda right now is on the mend. Her Her, they gave her the 2 units. Her body's, she's now up to a 10, which is still a little low for a female on the low side, because usually you're around a 12
and
or
30 with the
30 with the
hemostatin.
hemostat, however you say that.
I don't know how you say that, but anyway.
But she's up to a 30 on that. Her body seems to be recovering pretty rapidly, so they'll probably do some more blood work this coming week or maybe 2 to see how she's,
They'll keep
responding.
Checking for a little while.
I know. I think everything's going to be fine. He seems to think she's going to be fine. So we were excited about that, and we're praising the Lord. This is a praise report for us tonight.
Yes, very much.
This is our praise report to you to show you how the hand of the Lord can work.
Yes.
And 2, knowing the doctor. That's
that was very
that
special.
was very special, because I walked in, even in the hospital, people would see me talking to them, and I go back over, and people that work there, they call them the pink ladies, because they sit at the desk, they help people out when they come in the door. They said,
volunteers.
They said, "Do you know this man?" And I said, I knew him not long after he come to this country. I said, and we've been to church together quite a long time. I said, he's really a great guy. And she said, man, he's such a blessing.
Everybody likes this doctor.
Yes.
And the hospital was very awesome. I mean, very, very, I can't
very
say much
professional.
for very many hospitals.
Yeah.
I don't like most hospitals.
Most hospitals Wanda and I have been to over the last few years has been very filthy. This one is very...
Too many people, very... almost riffraff everywhere.
Yeah,
most of the people are just wandering around and different things, and it's just not much. The nurses are overworked.
Yeah.
And they can't keep up with their patients. Usually the orderlies and the transports and things like that are just speeding around because they got so much to do. Everybody was at a slow pace. I mean, even one of the nurses told me, she said, yeah, this hospital... And I heard a couple of them talking too while I was waiting. They said one of them said she got out of ICU at a major hospital on the coast. She said because it was such trauma all day long, and trauma and drama.
Yeah.
And she said here it's laid back and easy. Everybody takes their time. They see to the patients. They do what they're supposed to do. And she said we're not rushed.
Yeah. And
she really liked that. And I liked it because I got a lot of personal attention from
that was what was
all
key
the
to
nurses.
me.
Yeah,
Everybody was very professional. The cleanliness was everywhere. I mean, they were constantly. I knew the hospital because I'd been in it before. Because I had my other wife that had cancer and passed away. I'd been in there, but they had added on to the hospital, and when I got back there, I got turned around a couple of times because I was like, man, I said, this used to go here, and I used to go there, and one of the ladies that worked there, she said the pink ladies at the entrance up there can help you out when you get there. If you can, I said, look, I'll just go outside and walk around the parking lot because I know where I can come in at, I ain't going back through all these halls. And she said, well, the pink ladies around there can help you. And when I got around to the other side of the hospital and walked in the doors, I walked through and I was standing there looking around. One of them looked at me and she said, are you the guy looking for ICU? And I said, yes, ma'am. And she said, we were told you'd be coming our way. So, and I thought that, I was like, wow. I said, those people on the other side of the hospital cared enough to let those ladies know I'd be coming around there. And she said, I'll take you right where you need to go. She took me everywhere I needed to go. I mean, I was like, wow. And that was very uncommon. So that's where we're at. And, we want to give you all an update on Ms. Wanda and where we're at. She's doing good. Feels better. Got her in the condo this is really the first time since I carpeted it and put the new chairs in, and I actually put the carpeted rest.
I sat in the chairs once. You had the carpet on the floor. You didn't have all this.
Yeah, I didn't have all this up here. Now I say all this. Hold on, then, guys. I know y'all like to know what I'm talking about. You see this right here? This is a carpeted rest I installed in the condo here, so that if you need to lay a gun up there, or Miss Wanda has her cup up there, or our cameras and phones and stuff like that. So me and Ms. Wanda, it's her first time to see it.
Yeah, I hadn't seen this. I didn't know.
It doesn't make any noise. If animals out there, you can lay like I said.
As long as you're not banging.
You don't just beat on it, you know what I mean? But But that's where we're at, and we
And
want
the chairs are comfortable. I
Yes,
like our
chairs are-
chairs. I'm so glad we got
They're
these
swivel chairs. We can swivel around in them. You know,
And they don't
They
squeak.
don't make no racket. They're hydraulic. I mean, they.
It'd be awesome if there was a deer sitting behind us looking.
Yeah, I mean, we actually have windows all the way around us, and we can see down into the water bottoms down in here on this side,
And we can see behind us, and we can see in
this
front
front
of
us. We
us.
can see out this side to the branch over yonder. Because actually, there is actually another food plot on the other side of that branch on the property over yonder of ours. So now, on to our most misunderstood comments. Okay. And listen now.
We get this a lot.
We get this a lot, and we don't mind it. I mean, it just.
But we thought we'd explain it.
Yeah, we need to explain it, and it's not. It doesn't hurt our feelings. Okay, don't let that bother you. It concerns us for the other people, not us.
Mm-hmm.
And that comment is, why do you need so much land to grow all that food? How can two people how can two people use that much food? And Wanda and I, when we see these comments, we look at each other and we go, wow, they just really don't know, do they? And let me do a little bit of explaining here for Ms. Wanda gets kicked in gear here, because I know she's probably going to want to say something. But back in the early turn of the century, and the early turn, and I'll say 1900s, the United States Department of Agriculture estimated that it took 2 acres to feed one person in the family.
For a year, right?
For a year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Now 2 acres, and get that. Where we're at today, because of technology, because of the what we know about the soil and all the different square foot gardening and all this kind of stuff that can go on, the new statistics that I've seen here really very recently says it takes about 9,000 square foot per person in the family to feed one person for a year. Now when we say this, keep in your head, we're not talking about going to the grocery store. We're talking about feeding a person for a year. Mm-hmm. Not supplementing a grocery store haul, but living off of it. So that's 9,000 square feet per person. That's 18,000 square feet for me and Wanda. That's
what size garden, basically?
Well, you just have to do the math. It could be any size garden. I mean, it could be 90 by 90 or anything like that.
I'm not sure exactly.
It just depends on whether it's a rectangle, a circle, a square,
it could change.
Whatever. It's not really a certain dimension on it. But just square footage. You can figure, like, if you have raised beds and they have, there's like 12 square foot per raised bed, you just do the math. And
you got to have a lot of them.
Got to have a lot of beds to feed 2 people for a year,
And there is a lot of the square foot gardening and different things like that. And Danny and I are old school. So for the most part, we've been row gardening.
Right.
And since we've married, most of it has been row gardening. We have ventured into hugel. We ventured into raised beds, container gardening. We have videos on all this stuff.
High tunnels.
Then we got into the high tunnels. And so we have multiple ways that we've grown throughout the years. Plus, when Danny and I married, he had fruit trees that were bearing. Not
peaches, apples, you name it.
Not he just planted them.
No, these were bearing trees.
They were bearing trees. And a lot of homesteaders are just getting started.
Right.
So their trees are not bearing because they're just planting them. And it takes 3 to 5 years to start getting very much off of them to say that you can really even something.
Disease doesn't hit them or something.
Yeah, or
bugs or
Or like we have deer, we have to contend with that too.
Yeah.
So there's lots of issues that you have to watch for. But for us, we did the math and we have videos, and I'll try and link them. We did 2 different videos on what it takes to feed us for a year for breakfast. And for the other video was on lunch and supper.
Lunch and supper, yeah.
And that's a lot of food, because if you only eat, now I do supplement some of mine. Danny eats mainly from what we grow.
Yeah.
The first few years we did not grow our own meat.
No.
We did purchase. And that was getting old fast.
It's really
and
old fast because the meat. I'm used to farm raised meat,
Yeah.
and when Wanda and I, after going through the wife that had cancer and her passing away, me getting rid of all the animals and everything, not having anything to butcher, and then marrying Wanda, and then we had nothing other than the fact that I was completely stocked with everything in the house except meat.
We had all kinds of canned goods in our cellar. We have
Yeah.
an underground cellar, and so we had all kinds of canned goods when we married. And if it had not been for the foresight of his previous wife and Danny, he wouldn't have had that
No.
all canned up. She knew what was coming when she passed because she had 6 years to prepare Danny, and during that 6 years she was constantly putting food up and things like that because she knew when she passed he would need food to eat.
Right.
And so that's like a life-changing event.
Yes.
You have to have it. So when Danny and I married, there was still quite a lot of the jars of food.
Yes.
We started in it within 3 years. We had chickens and rabbits, I think, within the first 3 years, and we added the goats, which we never used them for meat.
Never used. That was just.
And so we got rid of them.
Yeah.
We got sheep and tried that. We did have mutton for a little while.
No, not mutton. We had lamb.
Lamb, yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. He wasn't old enough.
Well, mutton is a particular. He wasn't old enough to be what's called mutton.
Yeah.
So it was lamb.
So we had the lamb for a little while, but even that goes away.
Yeah, you eventually
we-
eat it all eventually.
And we did the meat chickens, and so the meat chickens last us a long time. We've done that a couple of times, and we're still eating on the last of our meat chickens.
Yeah, from 2 years ago.
And so this year is our year to do meat chickens again, and Danny got the cows. So now we have our own beef,
Yes.
and then we did 2 deer this year. And when we had rabbits, we still have rabbits, but we're not breeding rabbits just right this minute.
We're not raising rabbits to eat. We're raising rabbit. We're keeping rabbits strictly for the fertilize, for the high tunnels and stuff like that, for the containers and things of this nature, because we both know after what we've been through in the last 3 to 4 years across the water over there in the Ukraine that fertilizer is just getting to be outrageous.
Yeah.
And then it's chemical fertilizer. So we wanted something more natural and more organic for our health and everything. So that's why we raised the rabbits.
But we did raise rabbits. I had several a few years ago that I bred and used the meat, and I canned a lot of it. We just ran out of canned rabbit broth and meat last year. So this summer, or not summer, but spring, we could go ahead and be breeding and have a few rabbits if we needed them, but we have so much beef and deer right now that and still a good bit of chicken.
Yeah.
So we're not that worried about rabbits, and we'll hold those until we need them. But that takes care of our meat.
Yeah.
Most people's biggest thing is meat, and they spend so much on meat a year. So if you think about it, you've got to have the land and the facilities to grow meat.
Right.
Meat is your biggest expense, and if you don't have that, then you're spending an awful lot of money.
One of the biggest myths that if you don't know, if you don't know, one of the biggest myths is that you can take 5 or 10 acres and you can raise animals and you can raise your own food and be self-sufficient, and that is a myth. Okay, let me just go ahead and tell you that's a myth. There is no way you can raise a couple of cows, any kind of sheep or goats or chickens or pigs or anything on 10 acres or even 20 acres, hardly, and be self-sustaining, because you can't raise enough corn to feed a cow or a chicken or pigs or grass or anything else, or cut your own hay or anything like that on small acreage. It just won't work. And that's why when Pecan Grove become available to us, we jumped on it because we needed the extra land to be self-sufficient. Now we couldn't
raise our animal food.
No, we having to buy all of our feed.
All of it. So, and our feed bill was outrageous.
It was outrageous.
And I told Danny, I said, we're defeating the purpose now. And he said, but we know what's in it. And that was our only saving grace, is we knew what was in our meat. But it was costing us probably twice what it cost everybody else for meat.
Yeah.
in order to raise our animals. But fruits and vegetables. Now we put up a lot of fruits. Our pear trees have been fantastic. Our
We
fig
usually,
trees.
look, our pear trees, we can 100 quarts of pears and give away 25-gallon buckets, it seemed like, because off them
We
trees.
did.
But let me say something here. Everybody goes, why in the world would you need 100 jars of pears for a year? Well, this past year our pear trees had nothing.
I think I can seven or 14 quarts.
That's nothing
out of,
compared to what we normally do.
And if we hadn't had a stash from the year before,
right,
then we would have done out without pears by now.
well,
and Danny eats them almost all the time.
It has the same thing happen with the figs. We usually get like 30 to 40 gallons of figs off our trees every year, and we can them. And this year we got 3 gallons, I think it was.
3 or 4.
3 or 4 gallons is all that we got, and Wanda didn't even can them. She just put them in the freezer, and so we could throw them out and cook them and eat them, along rather than having to waste canning jars. But the fact that we had 100 jars from the year before still canned meant that we didn't have to do without figs this whole year while we had no figs, because you're not promised every year. These weather patterns, the late freezes and stuff, is knocking all the fruits off the trees. We didn't get no peaches this year.
No.
We got no apples this year. We got nothing. Now we had some blueberries. Now
Blueberries was the biggest thing.
We was one of the fortunate ones that our blueberry trees, they bore like crazy. The freeze did not hurt them, but everything else we lost completely.
And same thing with veggies.
Yep.
Now over the years we learned, the first few years we were married, green beans and English peas did fantastic. And we canned everything we did, and people are saying, why wouldn't you just give that to other people? We did give some away.
We did give some away.
And we even sold some, but we canned a lot.
Hundreds
people
of jars.
People were saying, why would you do that? Well then, 5 years ago, was the grazon
issue. Yes.
Danny put all that manure that was full of grazon on our garden, which cut back, and the next year our green beans and our English peas were almost nothing.
Non-existent, pretty much.
And so for the last couple of 3 years, we have not canned what we used to can.
Right.
The last 3-4 years. So we still had that stash, and we've gradually worked our way through the older, and we're up to what we had.
We just this week we were eating some green beans still from 2018, 2019, and now we're up to, I think, was it 20? We've still got a few from 2020. That's why we do it, guys, because you don't ever know what's going to happen. A weather event can happen, a chemical event can happen, a health issue can happen. As far as we call it, an LCE, a life-changing event of any kind can happen. And if you don't have extra, I'm talking about mega extra, from years before, then you'll starve. You'll just do it out.
Lots of people say how long. 5 years is usually my limit.
Yeah.
If anything in my cabinet gets to be 5 years old, we usually get it and eat it, or we feed it
to a pig.
So this year we're going to be cleaning out some, because jams and jellies is something that I went crazy with for several years.
Yeah.
And so I had so many jams and jellies. And we can't keep up with eating that many because we don't eat that much sweets.
Too much sweets.
So a lot of them have gotten to be 5 years old. So pigs get to eat really well from 5 years ago. And even the chickens will eat some of the stuff that we have. So we feed them along. And squash, we learned we did not like squash in a jar.
Right.
They're just mushy. Now, the only thing I usually would do with them would be the squash fritters, the squash casserole, something like that.
And that's okay. It tastes good.
Yeah, but you can't make... I had like 100 or 150 jars of squash a couple of different years, and we only ate 12, 15 of them, so I knew to cut back on what we did with squash.
Tomatoes was another thing. We had so many jars of tomatoes.
But every year we did something different.
Yes.
One year Danny did ketchup, so the next year we didn't need to do ketchup. We had a lot of it.
We had I don't even know, it was a ton of jars of ketchup.
And one year we did like tomato sauce.
Yep.
The next year we did salsa. Maybe 2 or 3 years we did salsa. Because we like salsa and stuff, but we don't season our salsa.
Right, we just
And that way I can use it
plain.
for spaghetti, chili,
Yes.
a dip. We can add it to soups. We can add it to casseroles. Just a plain salsa, onions, garlic, peppers, tomatoes.
Right.
That's about it.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. The peppers, onions, garlic, tomatoes, and that's pretty much it. Salt
Yeah.
and pepper. I mean.
Yeah, what you need to can it, you
Yeah.
know, anything like that. But it lasts for a long time.
A long time.
So why do we have so much food and why does it take so much for the two of us? We are kind of trying to go a little bit less as far as how we do things, but we're going to grow as much food.
Yes.
The carrots, we usually keep carrots twice a year.
Yeah, we usually grow spring and winter carrots. Winter carrots are sweet. Summer carrots or spring carrots are bitter. They don't taste that good. If we can anything, we like to can the summer ones because they're going to go in a soup or something like that, and you won't really know if
We'll be harvesting those, another month and a half?
No, that'll be the winter ones that we'll be harvesting in a month. They'll be sweet.
Yeah.
But if we planted any now,
Yeah.
and they grow during the heat of the summer and we harvest them, they would be bitter. So we try to save our sweet ones. We used to can all of them, but now we've gotten where we just eat them fresh. I mean, Ms. Wanda's figured out how to keep them fresh. And now we may can a few. I'm not going to say we won't can any because we will probably still can a few.
Yeah, last year we pretty much left them in the ground.
Yep.
I'd go pull when I wanted them, and they did not get eaten.
No.
I mean, the bugs didn't eat them.
Bugs
we didn't
didn't
have
mess
any
with
problems.
them. No rodents, no rats ate them, nothing like that.
Now, I'm not
I mean,
saying to do it every year, but
Right.
last year was a good year for carrots.
It was a good year.
And so, why do we need so much food? We also have a bunch of children and grandchildren and stuff, and when they come by, we do share with them. We have a couple of neighbors that we share with off and on.
There's a widow lady not far off we share with. But we want it. This is our thinking right here. We want it where when you walk out the door of the house, 365 days a year, you can lay your hands on something fresh to eat and not have to go to a grocery store or to a farmer's market because these places are pure poison. Okay? You don't know what these people have done to that food. Farmers markets, I used to love them. I'd say, man, look at all the fresh stuff. Look, after talking to some of those guys that was sitting in the farmers markets that I went to, they load them up with chemicals and everything else so their produce would be pretty and not have no bug signs on them and everything. Because I noticed, I said, man, that's the prettiest tomatoes. Oh, I tell you what, we used a lot of 7 dust and malathion on them things this year to keep all them worms off of them and everything and stink bugs and stuff. And the peas in the baskets would look amazing and the guys would be like, yep, he said, we sprayed enough stuff on them this year, and I'm like, I ain't eating that, you know. I don't mind the bug sign, you know. Like people used to say, like an apple, you know, or something like my peaches. They say, you don't have no worms in them? I'm like, well, we'd have one occasionally, but I just eat where the worm ain't eat. You know, I don't worry about it. I'm not that picky.
Yeah, so tonight was just to kind of talk a little bit about what we grow, why we grow it, and why we grow so much.
Yeah.
One of the other things about having so much land, you know, from where we are to where we bought land, was that where we are is turning into a subdivision.
It is.
And
everything
to be
around
honest,
us is just houses going up everywhere.
We needed some peace and quiet, and we needed some place like this to come and just enjoy, because you get to working so much that you need to slow down, and we need a slow down place. Not saying we're not working at Pecan Grove, we're working like crazy,
Right.
trying to get infrastructure in.
Yeah.
But we've also decided that when we bought Pecan Grove, the elderly gentleman that we got it from, Danny told him, says, Wanda's going to call it Pecan Grove. And
Oh yeah.
he said it sounds like a retirement.
It sounds like a retirement home, and Wanda and I got to thinking about this the other day because we're going to let y'all in on this. This will be our retirement place. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to retire here eventually, and so I guess
It is
it
our
will
retirement
be a retirement home. I guess. I mean, I don't know. I know it sounds
This
kinda,
condo might get a little bit tight here.
It might, because you know they have all kinds of facilities around us for retirement people. Where we live at Deepsouth, there's towns like 75 or 100 miles away. They got like pine groves and all these kind of things, you know. And here we are
Pine
calling.
Grove's actually a loony bin.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
And maybe Pecan Grove's a loony bin.
Pecan Grove, you know, here we're like, you know, it don't really sound that different than some of these other institutions, you know. I'm like, okay. So, yes, it will be a retirement place for Wanda and I. Yes. If the Lord, let's put it this way, if the Lord's willing, it will be our retirement place.
So we're going to be enjoying it. We're going to be planting in raised beds.
Yes.
We're going to be planting in containers. We got our new containers in that will go in the greenhouse.
Yes.
And some maybe out in the garden area to protect things, because we do have to protect here. And
yeah, we got a lot more problems here than we had at Deep South.
yeah, so we will be doing a lot of different things here. We're going to be shooting deer, but we're going to be filming deer, not shooting
Yeah,
deer.
when she says shooting deer, she means with what's shooting us right now.
Yeah, with a camera.
Yeah.
I intended to do that this winter, and I got sick,
Yeah.
and so that didn't happen. But I think we will be able to do some
Some
wildlife
wildlife videos is one thing. We're going to probably throw in a few wildlife videos.
Yeah.
You know,
I've got some from the deer cam, but I have to use music because of that, because there's no sound. Danny and I were hoping to get sound and stuff through these windows,
Yeah.
you know, letting one down, and we just haven't been able to do that. So when there's no sound, I do have to use music. I do use YouTube music. It's free music, and so some people don't like music and some people do. But
If you don't like the music, you can just turn the sound down and just look at it, and you can have a silent film like Laurel and Hardy or something used to be, you know.
yeah, so I can't please everybody,
Right.
and I'm not going to try.
It doesn't matter. It's our videos.
Yeah, so Danny and I are enjoying what we do.
Yes.
I felt bad I've just not wanted to do videos for a long time. I quit doing Crazy Days probably March, April of the year. So probably even that far back I wasn't up to my normal feeling well self. And so this year, will I resurrect Crazy Days? I don't know. It's according to how I feel in the future. It may just stay in the past.
Yeah.
We'll be leaning more toward Pecan Grove.
Yeah.
We'll have some Deep South, like Porch Time and a video, whatever we're doing there. And, you know, just like this, our Saturday Night Live when we can live, and a premiere when we can't.
Well, we can, yeah. And if you're not subscribed to Pecan Grove, go over and subscribe to it. There's a link in the description down below. Because that's where you're going to find the information at now, because everything we're doing predominantly is at Pecan Grove right now. All the gardening and fencing, DIYs, all that kind of stuff is over at Pecan Grove, because we're trying to get the infrastructure there. It's been 30 years since a farm has been used, so the infrastructure is in bad shape. And we're having to, and at our age, look, it's a little slower. It's not.
And when you get sick, it's even slower.
Even slower than that. So, you know, you have to bear with us. We're showing restoring an old farm and making it back into a productive farm, as long as the Lord gives us health to do it.
And we're showing what we're doing for our old age.
Yes.
Even though we were joking about retirement home, definitely it is to show older people what they can do. We've had a lot of people ask for these type videos. So Danny is showing when the high tunnel.
The high tunnel is our
how
work
he
on it.
done what he did, because his physical strength is not like somebody who's 20 years old.
Right.
And so from this point forward, most everything we do will be from an elderly person. I hate to say that.
Sounds horrible, but we're there. Okay.
We're at our retirement home, and this is what we'll be doing on Pecan Grove, is showing how older people or people with disabilities can handle things. And so we've had, over the years, probably that's one of our most requested videos anyway.
Yeah, and people always say, this is another thing, why do you need all that equipment and all that, you know, all those tractors and all that equipment? Well, if you watch our videos, you know, because of my injuries, the tractors are doing all the lifting, They hold stuff in place for me while I do stuff.
They move
They
stuff.
move
They take
stuff.
out trees.
I push with them. I take the grapples and I haul stuff off and put it in. And I have an enclosed cab so that when it's hot outside, I can turn the air conditioning on. I'm not a spring chicken anymore, you know what I mean?
And we plant and we
winter,
harvest and everything with these things.
Well, this winter when it was so cold, it'd be so cold outside. Used to, I'd go jump on my tractor and I'd pull stuff up and I'd go put hay to the cows, you know. Now I get in the tractor, crank it up, let it warm up. It's got a cab on it. I got a heater in it, and I can go put hay to the cows, and I can come back, and I'm not froze to death when I get back. I mean, I'm not hurting like I used to do. So the equipment is paying for itself. I mean,
it's a lifesaver.
It's a lifesaver. The Rangers, we got 3 of them.
I haven't been able to walk and do a whole lot, and to be able to go get on the Ranger and go riding around and doing things on both properties. We have a Ranger on one and a Kubota side by side on the other. And I couldn't do what I do if I did not have those to get on and go, because the walking was so. Now I can walk, but I'm not going to walk as much as I did at one point.
Not at one point. I mean, she's got to build her strength back up. You know,
now I'm walking more. I'm walking outside and doing things, but long term, like going across the pond dam and doing things on the other side, because everything we do has to go back and forth.
Yeah, we're not right at our gardens or anything, so we have to travel back and forth. And the Rangers are very economical on fuel. They're very easy to get on and off of. You know, so they have more than paid for themselves, along with the tractor and equipment. Now the equipment and the tractors it's been a lifetime of gathering for me. Mm-hmm. You know, with the exception of the Cub. I got the Cub here 2 or 3 years ago, and
bought fast with it.
I bought fast with it because of I needed it right then. The equipment I have for my other tractors, now that I have the Cub and it's working like it is, I may start selling some of the equipment, for my other tractors, because
he don't need 2 of some things. Some things he has 2 of that. It's just over the years people had stuff and he bought.
Well, people needed money, and I had it, and they needed it, and I needed what they had. I didn't really need what they had, but I mean, I bought, like at one time, I owned 3 or 4 discs, I owned 3 or 4 fertilizer spreaders and all that.
He's kind of sold out.
And when I see somebody who needed one, I'd say, hey, I got one, I'll make you a deal on, and they're like, really? And I'm like, they'd be tickled. I'd be tickled to death because I could help somebody, because I got it at a good deal. I could sell it at a good deal. So we're probably going to be doing more of that here before long, because I'm going to be downsizing some of the bigger equipment that I have, because the Cub does most everything I need except the tilling and stuff like that.
We won't be getting rid of the major pieces that he uses.
Oh, no.
But pieces that he's accumulated that he doesn't
that I just really don't need anymore.
And
so I'd like to be able to help somebody else out, that's looking for stuff.
And I know tonight might have been all over the place.
Well, I mean, we wanted to cover 2 or 3 different subjects here tonight, and we figured this is an hour-long video usually at night when we do it, and we figured that this would be the best way for us to cover these topics would be in a premiere tonight, because we knew the weather was projected to be pretty bad. So,
and if it isn't real bad, we will be in the chat.
Well, we're usually always in the chat. If someone has a question, I'll try to jump in and answer it if I can get some signal, But
we figured the chat was the best thing, because that's what most people want. They want to interact with each other as well as us. And even though we can't answer your questions tonight, if we're in the chat, we will try. If not, we'll get back and try to answer them in a video.
Well, guys, I know we don't have the prayer request thing here tonight,
but we want to give a prayer anyway.
But we do want to have a prayer. And we want to do it. We want to praise the Lord for what He's done, and we want to thank Him for what He's done. I'm going to pray for you, even though I don't know what your requests are. The Lord knows what you're going to ask. And He already knows your hearts. He knows your conditions. And He's already proven to us that He's a wonderful God. Amen. And I like to be able to tell Him, thank you. and how much I appreciate what he's done for us. So that's what we're going to do. At this time, I know y'all missed this, so we're going to try to still make it happen. Father, we come to you. We're humbled. Literally, we're humbled, Father, at your awesomeness, at your goodness, your mercy. You told us in Scripture, you know the plans you have for us, and you know that they're good. And Father, you've proven that with Wanda and I this week. And you're going to prove it to the people that's in the video chat tonight, Lord. Many of them are put up some prayer requests here, and they're going to put their requests up. And Father, I know you see them. If the intent of their heart is right, you will see these requests. And Father, because you're loving and because you're just, now we reap what we sow. You know, I have aches and pains every day, but I'm reaping what I've sown because of my younger years. And I can't, it's foolishness for me to ask to be healed of that because I did it to myself. But I can ask for comfort. And Lord, tonight as the people put their requests up and they pour out their hearts to you, they tell you their illnesses. They're just acknowledging it. You already know it, but they're acknowledging it before you. Father, be merciful to them. Be kind to them like you was to me and Wanda. And heal their bodies like you did, Wanda. Lord, reach out, work with the surgeons or the doctor's hands, Father, and just help them. Help them to overcome the obstacles in life. And if it's at that point of life where it's time for them to go home, then give them grace. Give them dying grace. Give them peace. And the ones that's left behind are usually the ones, if it's a born again, but one of your children, then the ones that's left behind are the ones who suffer the worst. And Father, and I just pray. I pray for those that have lost here recently and that have lost loved ones of all branches of the family, Father, whether it's a spouse, a child, a mother, a father, an aunt, an uncle, brother, sister, whatever it is, Lord, I pray for them. And I pray earnestly for them that they'll be able to find peace and contentment, Father. Those that are dealing with the bad weather, Lord, I pray for them also that you'll just watch over them through the weather. All the situations we got going on in our country, Father, it's become a mess. And rightfully so. You told me 2 years ago that this was going to happen, and it is happening. So I'm just asking you, if your people are involved in it in any way, Father, please take care of them now. Forgive us where we failed you. Watch over us, guide and direct our path now. We ask these things in Christ's name. Amen.
And thank all of y'all for all the prayers.
Yes.
All the well wishes. I tried to keep people on Patreon up to date. I did put community posts up once or twice on YouTube. I know a lot of people don't know where they're at, but if you go to our channel page and it'll say videos, live playlist, all that. Community's in that. If you scan through it, community's there. You just have to look for it. If you're subscribed, the community post should pop up just like videos do. Yeah. But if you're not subscribed, then you have to go hunt it. Yeah. And you wouldn't know when I post anyway. So. Right. So that was another thing. The patrons have known all along what was going on in detail. We pretty much kept them up to date. But we love you. We appreciate you. Thank you for joining us tonight, and we will hopefully have some more videos out for y'all this coming week, and maybe they'll be a little bit educational, and maybe you'll enjoy them and learn just a little something from them. That's our desire, is that you can learn and you can come to know the Lord. That's our goal in life now. Thank you guys from Deepsouth Homestead.